This video is sponsored by World of Tanks. Hi friends, today we're going to talk about some hot marines. And I'm not talking flamethrowers. Yes, today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite, canonically handsome, vampire-in, jetpack-loving, berserker-in, red space marines, the Blood Angels. But before we get into all that, allow me a moment to talk about today's sponsor, World of Tanks. World of Tanks is an awesome free-to-play game on PC and consoles where you can pilot a host of real-life tanks. There's a huge arsenal of tank classes to choose from, including light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, artillery, and more. You can pick from over 800 different tanks to storm a variety of epic battlefields and crush your enemies with whatever tactics best suit you. Want to crush everyone in your way with overwhelming firepower? Sure. Want to pummel enemies with artillery fire from afar? Sure. Want to pull a Creed surprise Baneblade in the bushes? Sure. Pick a heavy tank of your choosing and try it out. World of Tanks is made even cooler with the meticulous attention to detail. Commanding historically accurate tanks makes blasting your enemies even more satisfying. So, click the link in the description to play World of Tanks and use promo code COMBAT to get an awesome starter pack with a premium Cromwell B tank, 250,000 credits, 7-day premium account access, and 3 iconic rental tanks for 10 battles each. And returning players get cool stuff too. 3 days premium access, the bargain camo, 7-day rental of premium tank Centurion, or if you already have the Centurion, 100,000 credits compensation. So what are you waiting for? Join the battle now! But anyways, the Blood Angels were the 9th Legion and were known as the Eaters of the Dead, named as such for their tendency to eat the dead. They were also called the Revenant Legion by Ultra Chad Malcador, since the 9th Legion would often take heavy losses, but they'd always be ready for the next battle. And the 9th Legion didn't take heavy losses because they sucked at fighting or anything. They were actually really deadly warriors, but they were also bloodthirsty savages. The bloodthirsty being extremely literal in this case. The Revenants were one of the most brutal, if not the most brutal legion of the heresy, and would absolutely annihilate any enemy they were sent after with savage brutality. And due to this brutal savagery, the Legion was generally distrusted by the other Imperials. As such, most of the 9th Legion were not allowed to wield special weapons like plasma, volkite, or meltas. Sir, should we give those dudes better weapons? For Christ's sake! I mean Emperor's sake! Why the heck would we do that? We've been trying to stop these dudes from eating corpses. What, now we're supposed to give them guns to cook their meals gourmet style? Are you crazy? Come on, man!
Well, I was just asking.
So, due to this restriction, the Revenant Legions were only given bolters and chainswords, and the tactics that they used in this time are still used in the modern setting, most notably the tactic of shooting themselves into the middle of an enemy horde and ripping and tearing with their chainswords. And luckily for the increasingly less popular 9th Legion, the Emperor had found a funky fella called Sanguinius on the irradiated wasteland called Baal. Oh man, I promise, I used to have really nice balls, but the radiation dried them right up.
Sure.
Sanguinius was a literal angel man. Like the Space Marines are referred to as the Emperor's Angels, but Sanguinius is actually how we tend to think of angels. He's got giant angel wings, he's canonically a hottie, and he's one of the most, if not the most, charismatic fellas in all of Warhammer. Also, his name roughly means relaying to blood or bloodthirsty, so he's literally a blood angel. But anyways, after meeting the Emperor, Sanguinius instantly knew who he was and pledged fealty to his dad. Afterwards, the Emperor put Sanguinius and some other ballers in charge of the Savage Ninth, and being the cool dude he was, Sanguinius promised his sons that he would do his darndest to lead them into becoming the very best that they could possibly be. He learned the name of each and every one of his warriors, gave inspiring speeches, and reinvigorated his tattered legion. In battle, Sanguinius learned that his sons were blood-drinking cuckoo crazies, and he knew that he had to help them change their ways or else his legion would be lost. So, Sanguinius worked to rebrand his unruly blood boys into the noble, only sometimes vampiristic, blood angels we know and love today. Sanguinius taught his sons some manners, how to control their violent urges, diplomacy, and even how to have hobbies such as painting, poetry, and not eating people. He also had his sons work with Horus's Luna Wolves. In this time, the Luna Wolves were known for their nobility and honor in combat, so they made the perfect big brothers for the Blood Angels. So, from the Shattered Ninth, Sanguinius forged one of the most renowned legions of the entire Imperium. The Blood Angels went from the cryptic weirdos to shining beacons of hope, descending from the heavens to shred heretics. But the red thirst remained deep inside of them, and each angel took it upon himself to keep the urges at bay. And I'll touch on that a bit more later. The Blood Angels were extremely good as melee shock troopers, and they formed a little brotherly rivalry with the World Eaters, another legion of brutal savages. But instead of fixing them like Sanguinius did, Angron just said, "These brutal savages aren't brutal or savage enough for me. Get the nails!" And a famous tactic of the Blood Angels during the Great Crusade was something called the Ultimatum Wars. Sanguinius would come down to the world and give them the opportunity to join the Imperium peacefully, and then if/when they refused, the Blood Angels would give them a little party called the Day of Revelation. Fun events at this party included getting chainsawed in half, getting shot in the face, getting curb stomped into oblivion, eating some pizza, and painting the red guys red. So yeah, basically the Blood Angels followed the saying of the ancient king Tadicius Rooseveltius, and they tried to settle things diplomatically, and if that failed, they had the power to totally annihilate the planet's forces. And this tactic worked very well for the Angels, since Sanguinius was both extremely charismatic, but also an exemplary warrior who was able to handle his big stick well. So, many worlds would voluntarily surrender either because Sanguinius was just such a cool dude, or because they feared the wrath of the Blood Angels. Then, those who didn't surrender, well, they became examples of why the first option was probably the best one. The Blood Angels' favored tactic was to do quick planetary assaults, heavily utilizing drop pods and thunderhawks. Once surfaced, the Angels would emerge and engage in savage melee assaults, notably using a lot of jump pack marines. This tactic is still done in the current timeline with little changes, and the chapter is also mostly Codex compliant, other than a few special units that we'll touch on later. But anyways, when Horus turned traitor, Sanguinius' angels were shocked since Sanguinius was besties with Horus and his legion was very close with the Luna Wolves. Horus did not want to fight the Blood Angels, so he sent them far, far away and set up a trap for their arrival. At Cygnus Prime, the Blood Angels were ambushed by a huge chaos force. It was there that Sanguinius learned of Horus's heresy from the legendary bloodthirster Kabunda. Then the two had an epic battle. Meanwhile, their legions also had an epic battle. Eventually, in their epic sky battle, Kabunda temporarily knocked out Sanguinius, and with their Primarch seemingly down, the Blood Angels momentarily reverted to their savage berserker ways. This allowed them to vanquish the demonic hordes. The Angels regrouped with Sanguinius, and thinking the Emperor was dead and the Imperium lost, the Blood Angels, Ultramarines, and Dark Angels created Imperium Secundus, where Sanguinius was made Emperor. However, Sanguinius had a vision that the Emperor was still alive, and the three legions made a mad dash to Holy Terra. Of the three, only the Blood Angels made it to Terra since the other two performed a rear attack on the forces of chaos. On Terra, Sanguinius and his angels absolutely wrecked Hog. Sanguinius had a rematch with Kabunda, banished him, fought Demon Primarch Angron, banished him, and then killed a bunch of other baddies. And this all culminated with a fateful assault on Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. Sanguinius went ahead of Dorn and the Emperor and fought through the treacherous corridors of the ship. You see, it was important to him that he confronted Horus first since Sanguinius had foresaw his death at the hands of Horus and he felt that he needed to confront his brother. Although Sanguinius didn't know if his prophecies were truly destiny, either way, he knew he had to face Horus. Either the prophecy was true and if he didn't die to Horus before the Emperor fought Horus, then it would mean that Horus survived his battle with the Emperor in order to later kill Sanguinius. Or the prophecy was false and Sanguinius would actually be able to help his father kill Horus without getting absolutely curb stomped. Or another interpretation is that Sanguinius felt that he had to die since he feared becoming a servant of chaos. But this is getting a bit confusing, so we'll just have to explore this more in a future Sanguinius video. Anyways though, Sanguinius finally engaged in an epic duel with Horus. At this point, Horus was mega roided up with the power of all four Chaos Gods, and on the other hand, Sanguinius was still battered and beaten from all his previous badassery. So, even though Sanguinius was arguably the best duelist of all the Primarchs, Ascended Horus absolutely annihilated his brother after he realized that Sanguinius would never turn to Chaos. The death of Sanguinius is one of the most important moments in all of Warhammer. Not only was his sacrifice seemingly crucial in the Emperor defeating Horus, but it also caused the Black Rage to manifest within his sons. The Black Rage was yet another personality quirk that the Blood Angels had to deal with. Angels afflicted with the Black Rage are overwhelmed with visions of their Primarch's death, which makes them go insano style. Literally. They start to think that they are actually Sanguinius out to kill Horus, and they start murdering anything in their way. The Black Rage makes them super strong, super violent, and super wacko. Other than some exceptional cases, the Black Rage is basically a death sentence since the Marines are lost in their insanity. With that, it seems a good time to talk about the Blood Angel's gene seed. Sanguinius' gene seed gives the Blood Angel aspirants vampire fangs called Angel's Teeth. That's bad. And it also makes them total hotties. That's good. And it gives them the aforementioned Black Rage along with the Red Thirst. That's really bad. Except for when it's good, of course. The Red Thirst gives the Blood Angels an insatiable craving for blood. And if they go too long without drinking blood, they slowly get weaker, get depressed, and age quicker than an Astartes really should. Usually the Blood Angels get around this by drinking donated blood, but just like how fresh squeezed OJ is much more refreshing and delectable than the stupid shit from concentrate, fresh blood from living victims is a lot more satisfying to the Angels, and it rejuvenates them more efficiently. Additionally, if a Blood Angel drinks too much blood, they turn into a man-bat-esque monster and go a bit nutty. So, you either become a yucky old man, ew, a literal monster, ew, or a guy who has to track his diet, ew. Poor Blood Angels. And their final notable flaw is the Black Rage, which I previously described. Blood Angels also have a disproportionately high amount of Psychers, and their Psychers are some of the most powerful around. For example, Mephiston is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, Space Marine Psychers around, and he has insane feats. And the Blood Angels also have their exclusive Psyker Dreadnoughts. That's right, baby! Wizard Vampire Coffin Mechs! Woo! Expanding on that, let's go on to the special units of the Blood Angels. To me, this is one of the coolest things about the faction. They have some of the absolute coolest bespoke squads of all the Space Marine chapters. First off, there's the Death Companies. These are berserker squads made up of Marines who have fallen to the Black Rage. The ravenous Astartes have their armor painted jet black with red accents to represent the wounds of Sanguinius. They pick their weapon of choice, and then they're put into stasis until they're needed. When the time calls, the Death Company Marines are dropped into the most dangerous vital positions, led by chaplains, in hopes that they could go out in a blaze of glory. The chaplains try to keep the frenzied Marines in check and direct them to the foes most in need of a good old-fashioned bloodthirsty killing. Often, these superpowered Marine squads are super effective and able to take down armies before perishing themselves. However, if they do somehow survive, they're often mercifully culled by the Blood Angels' High Chaplain, Astrorath the Grim. Then, on the other end of the nobility versus savagery spectrum that the Blood Angels need to balance are the Sanguinary Guard. These dudes originated as Sanguinius' honor guard in the Great Crusade, and in the current setting serve as the ultra elites of the chapter and Dante's honor guard. These dudes are totally badass. Their traditional equipment is an angelic suit of golden artificer armor, sometimes fitted with badass death masks. They get badass wrist-mounted guns, including bolters, inferno pistols, or plasma pistols. Then, to complement their wrist guns, they get a choice of encarmine glaives, spears, swords, axes, or power fists. Bad ass! And they also just look really wicked cool. Oh. Yeah, they used to look really wicked cool. For having some of the more interesting bespoke units with cool designs, Blood Angels get absolutely fucked with their models. Other than the Lomardes and kinda Ashtorath, I guess, the new Blood Angel models just absolutely suck in my opinion. Like, what the hell did they do with the Sanguinary Guard? They literally just look like slightly fancier jump pack intercessors. And oh my god, the Death Company, they're literally just intercessors painted black. What the hell? These new models embody almost every single reason I don't like the new models that much. Unnecessarily making things sleeker, getting rid of cool details to add dumb shit like a million pouches and tactical stuff. They lessen the cool exaggerations, and overall the new models just look so damn sterile. Like, give me back my damn nipples and wings! Ah! And they done Primarisified the Sanguinor. No! Speaking of the Sanguinor, let's talk about him a bit. The Sanguinor is a mythical warrior who manifests in the most dire of battles to help turn the tide of war for the Blood Angels. His true nature is debated among Blood Angels and other Imperials, some believing him to be a wayward soul seeking redemption, some think that he's simply an hallucination, and others believe him to be a manifestation of the remnants of Sanguinius' spirit. Whatever the case is, everyone knows that he's a total badass. And speaking of total badasses who wear a mask of Sanguinius, we got Chapter Master Dante, everyone's favorite depressed old man. Dante is the oldest non-dread loyalist space marine, and he was special from the very start. From a young age, he had visions of the Sanguinor, and during his aspirant trials, he had more visions, and some theorize that he defeated the Black Rage while in the aspirant sarcophagus. Through his life, he would continue to have visions, the most notable of them being Papa Sangi telling him that he's a very, very special little guy and is of great importance. So get up, Dante, you're not allowed to die yet. And I'll touch more on him in a future video, but finally, I just want to say, Sanguinius should never, ever, 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 ever come back to life. I say this because I see an alarming amount of people online saying how cool it would be to have Sanguinius come back because he's such a cool guy. La-dee-da, doodly-doo. Imagine how great it'd be if he was in 40k. Blah, blah, blah. No, wrong. Sanguinius would literally be the worst Primarch to come back and would honestly irreversibly hurt the narrative and themes of 40k if he were to be resurrected and get his fancy $200 40k model. 40k is a setting of stagnation and decline. Every faction is in a stalemate because no matter what they do, they just cannot get their trump card to work. The Imperium will never get his shit together, the Necrons will never awaken enough, the Tyranid fleet will never arrive in full, and chaos will always be chaotic. That's the point! 40k is a unique setting in how it perfectly primed itself to let the fans of it create their own stories and wage their own wars. Everything is written to be roughly equal power, and every faction hates everyone else, so you can justify pretty much any game matchup and homebrew. The setting should never progress on a large scale because that would be thematically inconsistent and hurt the hobby aspect of the game. I already don't like the trend of every Primarch coming back, but Sanguinius returning would be vastly different from Guilliman or the Lion. Guilliman worked for me because his story of being a legend out of time, seeing his worst nightmare manifest while also basically being a god who doesn't really have power to make any meaningful change is pretty interesting and doesn't actually have to change the setting as much as it seems, assuming they don't add anything too crazy that is. Likewise, the Lion so far seems to just be a mega strong warrior. To be honest, I haven't read much Lion lore, but if that's the case, that's fine too, I guess. I mean, I prefer to have not had it happen, but whatever. But Sanguinius coming back would be world breaking simply from a symbolic level. It would essentially be the resurrection of hope for the Imperium on a scale that would far outclass even Guilliman. It would invalidate his hugely meaningful sacrifice, it would fundamentally hurt the Blood Angels' culture of sacrifice, and it's just really so unnecessary. I really hate the comic book mentality that every single character needs to come back to life. It kills investment in characters since who cares what happens if they just come back later? That is why the immortal characters of 40k get their asses kicked all the time. Like imagine something really stupid like a Fortnite event proclaiming, somehow Sanguinius returned. That would be really fucking stupid. And surely no huge beloved space franchise would ever do something so dumb, right? I hate Star Wars. Also, Sanguinius coming back as evil Sanguinius or something is also really stupid. Just let dead characters be dead. Also, the loose Holy Trinity thing that the Sanguinor, Dante, and Mephiston have going for them is way cooler than Sanguinius literally getting resurrected. These three having echoes of Sanguinius' soul guiding them to kick ass across the galaxy is much more thematic. The idea of legends of the past inspiring warriors of the present to desperately fight for the remnants of a time lost is just so 40k. But you can't sell a model for that, now can ya? Ugh! But yeah, with my two Insano rants out of the way, that's the Blood Angels. Very cool chapter. I think of all the chapters, they have one of the coolest aesthetics, if not the coolest. The bold red looks great next to the golden commanders and elites, and also the Death Company of course looks badass with the classic black and red, plus jump pack marines with giant chainswords, that's just super freaking cool. I love eviscerators. Them being vampires who like to write poems is just a cherry on top. I really love how they really embody the 40k Frankensteining of ideas to make something really cool. But yeah, let me know what you think about these thirsty hotties. Do you think jump packs and chain swords is the coolest shit ever? Or do you think hot vampires belong in teenage girl fiction? Whatever it is, let me know in the comments. And again, thank you to World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. Remember to click the link in the description and use code COMBAT to play this awesome tank combat game for free and get awesome bonuses. And of course, thank you for watching, and thank you to my patrons who help the channel grow and let me make cool videos. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your bloodthirsty noble berserkers. Thanks! If Sanguinius ever comes back, I'm killing the channel! Ah!